Hey, welcome to Engine Chill. My name is Static Fargo, and here's some space update for this week. Boeing's Starliner spacecraft is back in the factory to fix stuck valves. Oh my god. So, there's no new launch date yet for orbital flight test 2 for Starliner. When hop, Boeing, when hop. Boeing Starliner astronaut taxi has returned to its factory so engineers can fix stock valves that were discovered recently as the companies prepare to launch an uncrewed test flight for NASA. The spacecraft was scheduled to launch on an uncrewed orbital flight test 2 mission to the International Space Station on July 30. Trust me, I've been waiting for that moment, but it never happened. NASA and Boeing announced they would stand down from their launch attempt July 29, and with the stock valves persisting, Starliner is undergoing what would be a lengthy fix. One hop. Starliner is at the Commercial Crew Cargo Processing Facility on NASA's Kennedy Space Center, the agency announced last week. Before the facility shifts, engineers removed the spacecraft from the Atlas V inside the Vertical Integration Facility at Space Launch Complex 41 on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Well, I'm not sure if Starliner will ever launch, but I hope to see it launch. Hopefully this year. A new launch date for Orbital Flight Test 2 hasn't been announced, as that will be pending the results of troubleshooting, NASA said, along with figuring out the right time to launch to the International Space Station amid other cargo and crew launches. It's been a long road to certify Starliner to eventually carry astronaut crews. Why so long? Anyway, let's go with the next one is Capstone. This is actually the first time I've heard about it. Capstone, it's a small CubeSat bound for the moon, is preparing for an October launch. It is scheduled to launch this October from New Zealand, and I bet it is Rocket Lab, because they're the only space company that I know that is in New Zealand. So Capstone will be the first CubeSat to fly in Earth-Moon space, settling into a near rectilinear halo orbit around the moon. NASA's plan to reboot human exploration of the moon will get kickstarted soon by a spacecraft the size of a microwave oven. This cislunar autonomous positioning system technology, operation, and navigation CubeSat, or Capstone for short, is scheduled to launch in October from New Zealand aboard a Rocket Lab Electron rocket. I knew it! In its Lunar Photon upper stage spacecraft. Tipping the scales at a modest 55 pounds or 25 kilograms, Capstone is no lightweight when it comes to its assignments. Well, good luck on that, Rocket Lab. Capstone's primary objective is to test and verify the calculated orbital stability of a near rectilinear halo orbit around the moon. That's the same orbit scripted for NASA's Lunar Gateway, the planned small space station that will orbit the moon to provide astronauts access to the lunar surface. The Gateway is touted as a vital component of NASA's Artemis program, which aims to establish a sustainable long-term human presence on and around the moon by the end of the 2020s. For its part, Capstone is designed to help reduce risk for future spacecraft by validating navigation technologies and verifying the dynamics of this halo-shaped orbit. So after a 3-month journey to its target destination, Capstone will orbit this area around the moon for at least 6 months to understand the characteristics of the orbit. The NRHO provides an unhindered view of Earth in addition to coverage of the lunar south pole Capstone's 7 Earth day orbit will bring the probe within 1,000 miles of one lunar pole on its closed path and take it 43,500 miles from the other pole and its most distant point. This is a very cool mission, and I can't wait to see this launch from the Rocket Lab. So, ever wonder why you're not seeing SpaceX launches? It's because SpaceX paused Starlink launches to give its internet satellites lasers. SpaceX hasn't launched any Starlink internet satellites since June. It turns out it's because the company has been adding lasers to the spacecraft. Since it last launched a batch of Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit on June 30, SpaceX has been quiet about what's next for the constellation. With Starlink launches happening frequently in the first half of 2021, this pause raised questions. So, SpaceX President and Chief Operating Officer Wynne Shotwell explained the break. These laser terminals, or laser crosslinks, were added to a batch of Starlink satellites back in January 2021. These links allow satellites to transfer information to one another and communicate in other ways as well. With this technology, SpaceX hopes that the ground stations on Earth won't be necessary with every batch of satellites as part of the constellation. Making this change could allow satellite internet coverage to reach areas where ground stations cannot be built. SpaceX continues to grow its Starlink constellation, which the company hopes will be able to provide internet service to people around the globe, even in remote areas that do not currently have reliable internet. How I wish we have space Starlink satellite here in the Philippines. I think it's very possible in the future, but I am certain that it's gonna be very costly. Oh well. There are currently over 1,600 Starlink satellites in orbit, and the number will continue to grow. SpaceX has filed paperwork for up to 42,000 satellites for the constellation, but the company is actively thinking about ways to prevent collisions and to minimize risks in orbit. It's gonna be a messy orbit. Alright, let's move on to China's Changgong space station. What's happening over there? Chinese astronauts Ni Haisheng and Li Boming accomplished a nearly 6-hour spacewalk outside the core module last week, and they've been installing a coolant pump and lifting a panoramic camera on the exterior of the complex. The two astronauts completed their planned tasks supporting the assembly of the Tiangong space station. One of the highlights of the spacewalk was the installation of a backup extended pump set to help flow liquid coolant through a thermal control system loop, regulating temperatures inside the space station. The coolant dissipates heat generated by equipment inside the outpost and helps ensure steady and comfortable temperatures throughout the station. Ni and Liu accomplished 4 steps to complete mechanical and fluid connectors. Ni and Liu accomplished 4 steps to complete mechanical and fluid connections with the new pump. During their spacewalks, the astronauts moved around the exterior of the Tiangong module with the aid of a robotic arm. The astronauts also raised a panoramic camera outside the station, re-entering the Changgong module, completing a 5-hour and 55-minute spacewalk. Tang Hobo, I don't know if I pronounced it right, this is the 3rd space station crew member assisted the spacewalker from inside the Changgong core module. The spacewalk completed Friday was the 3rd in the history of China's space program. China's first spacewalk was accomplished on the Shenzhou 7 mission in 2008. On that flight, Liu and crewmate Changgong briefly exited the hatch the Changzhou 7 spacecraft and waved a Chinese flag for a television audience. The three-man station crew launched June 16 on China's Changzhou 12 spacecraft, beginning a planned 3-month expedition. The astronauts are the first residents aboard China's space station. The assembly of the Changgong station began in April with the launch on the Tiangong core module on a heavy-lift Long March 5B rocket. China's launched a Changzhou cargo ship to dock with a Changgong module in May, followed by the arrival of the first Changzhou cruise ship in June. The Changzhou 12 astronauts are in the home stretch of their mission before returning to Earth in mid-September. Whoa, they're almost done with their mission. Time runs so fast. A new Changzhou supply freighter is scheduled to launch to the space station on the Long March 7 rocket in September, followed by the launch and docking of the next space station crew on the Changzhou 13 spacecraft in October. Well done, China. So we have a next spaceflight update. Blue Origin New Shepard launch on Thursday, August 26th at 9:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. New Shepard will fly a NASA lunar landing technology demonstration a second time on the exterior of the booster. 18 commercial payloads inside the crew capsule, 11 of which are NASA supported, and an art installation on the exterior of the capsule. That's it for the space news. This has been Static Fargal on the Engine Chill podcast. By the way, I'm looking for a co-host who would like to join me, talk about anything about space related, rockets, aliens, stuff like that. You may send me a DM on Twitter, galstatic, or email me enginechill@protonmail.com.